What's up, everybody? Is everybody here?
Yeah, we'll see. It's a holiday. I don't
Yeah, it's a holiday for us. Everyone works, right? Unless you got a real job.
know. Job. Right. Everything's
Just me.
Going. That's
I'm
good.
the only one here.
So we fixed the audio problem. That's good. Let's go to the control room. I'm going to set up the Facebooks.
It's weird seeing me so, like, it's slightly higher now. You know? I don't really love that. But, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it now, you know? I mean, but that's the way you've got yours, right? Yours is slightly higher.
I mean, yeah, mine's above the monitor.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
just feel like it's creeping on me, you know? Instead of being right there with me, it's creeping on me. What's up, Dryson?
What's up, Dryson? John Haley? John Haley?
We played some Halo.
You
my
played
mind
last
off of
night. What are you
Everything.
talking about?
Yeah, you guys play too late.
10
It's
o'clock
like-
at night?
Yeah, 10 o'clock I'm already in bed, and I am half asleep by that point.
Half asleep, see? That means you could get up, you know.
Which means I have to walk all the way upstairs.
Oh. We'll put it in your bedroom.
Whatever. No, I'm not going to do that.
Chris is here. Maria's here.
What's up, Maria?
All right. People filing in. Cool. All right. I think we're good to go.
I watched half of Grease for the first time ever
It's the
this
word.
weekend. It's a terrible movie. It's a bad movie. Kids should not watch that movie.
Shang, shangity, shang, shabop.
Oh man. I finally realized where that, TikTok song came from.
Which
You
one?
know, hopelessly devoted to you. That one was a big trend for a while. Where it was it was like
I don't even remember.
the vocoder, version of it. It was really good. So, my wife was like, "How do you know all the words?" I was like, "Come on, TikTok, of course."
Yo.
Obviously.
That's right.
I don't know
Right.
which response is worse because I love this movie or TikTok.
Right?
It's a tough one to say.
She got mad at me because I was talking about how stupid the movie was, and how inappropriate for children it is. But kids love that movie for some reason.
The kids love it.
Yeah. Let's just encourage sexism and bullying. That's what that movie's all about.
I'm not sure there's great morals coming out of it.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. Oh man.
All right. You ready to do a show?
Let's do it.
Let's do this. Here we go.
Let's do it.
What's up and welcome to another Mograph Mocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt, and joining us all the way from his hotel room, Mr. Eric Say.
Hello.
And Mograph is a supplement to our site, mograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other Mograph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects, plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. You can email us info@mograph.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Questions, comments, concerns, queries, grievances, artist suggestions, show topic ideas. We're on mograph.com. If you want to come check us out, you can go to mograph.com/live if you want to check out all the scheduled events. And you can go to youtube.com/mograph. And you can check out all the shows and things.
Definitely sign up for that newsletter.
Yeah.
Because we may have some things announcing in the next few months that you'll want to be a part of.
Absolutely. This is our Magnum episode, number 357.
Oh, God.
And we're
I love how you've always got these great little
Yeah.
quips that, unexpected.
We're going to talk about sports graphics, the meaning of life. Are we living in a simulation? You never know what we're going to talk about.
Probably.
Yeah. And, some say it's a little slow right now. Some people are saying it's a little slow right now. If it is, it's a good time to learn. So make sure that you pick up a copy of Stop Being Afraid of Houdini.
Yep.
Or Creating the Unreal.
Yep.
Or RTX On and learn some Unreal stuff there. Some ray tracing. Or Brush Up if you want to learn Procreate,
Dave, what's next on your list for learning?
On my list for learning? That's tough. Because I didn't really have any plans for learning until we talked to Barton the other day.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
And he's going to be on. He's going to pick a date here pretty soon. He hasn't picked a date yet, but he's going to come be on the show maybe February, March, and we got some Unreal stuff to talk about.
Yeah. What about you, Eric? Anything? What's next on your list to learn?
My New Year's resolution was to learn Spanish, so we'll see how that goes.
Right.
But tech-wise, if I could magically learn anything without the training, it would probably be Unreal. But I think I would probably have more fun actually picking up Houdini.
Same, yeah.
It's a little more interesting, right? Yeah. Where I feel like Unreal might just be a little more just kind of learning where the buttons are to do what I already know how to do.
Honestly, that's the way that I've kind of seen Unreal. It's like you're going to do a majority of the work in at least this is what we were talking about with Barton the other day. We went and had lunch with him, us and Sasha Vinogradova. She's in Dallas now, so she came and we had brunch. So I ate a bunch of pancakes and then went back to my house and took a nap. But he's had a couple of these spots that he's been working on in Unreal, and like so when I first saw the spot, I was like, this doesn't seem totally their style. But then once he told me it was Unreal, I was like, okay, I get it. Right. It's just that extra 10%, that you get from a standard render or whatever, that you don't get in Unreal. But like, some of the stuff that he's been working on, so it's basically you work in your entire package in C4D or whatever, and then you do the textures and substance, and then bring it all in Unreal, and then render it out. He was saying like some of these spots that they were doing would render out on one computer in like 20 to 40 minutes, and it's like, oh my gosh, can you imagine a 30-second spot rendered out in 20 to 40 minutes? On one computer, not even the farm.
So what's your prediction? Is the pipeline going to get better for porting over your textures and your like models to Unreal, or are the tools to build natively in Unreal gonna push?
They're not doing a very good job pushing those new tools to build
does not seem to be the priority.
Yeah. So, we'll see though.
Here's the thing, if you're working in Substance, I think Substance is going to be the next thing. I was thinking about it this morning, and I was like, I was worried that I was getting a little left behind because, anytime I go and talk to Barton, I introduce all this stuff and he's like, oh, that's cool. He gets really interested. But like, they have now surpassed me in the Unreal and the Substance stuff. And I was like, oh, no, that's not cool. I always want to be on the edge of like what's next and stuff like that. So I think Substance is going to be my next one because that can translate to so many other things.
That's easy though.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like I worry that I've gotten stuck in this like, okay, I know what I'm doing, and I've got no disrespect to Grayscale Gorilla. Their tools are fantastic, and it makes it really easy for me to create good stuff really quickly that I don't worry about learning some of these other things, and I think that's detrimental to me, actually.
I feel that feeling of getting left behind constantly, though, because, there's so many new tools, and at one point in my life, and oh man, this is probably the definition of getting old, but I was so excited every time a new tool came out. I was like, oh, look how cool this is. I can't wait to use it. And now I'm like, oh God, I have to learn another tool. So,
Right?
Oh, one more thing I got to figure out how to do, Although one of my favorite things in the industry, and I guess probably this is important for my job too, I just love trying to predict where things are going to go. Like what is going to be actually the style or technology? I don't know. What's your What's your prediction?
I think all the AI stuff is going to be huge. Like we are on the cusp of like a big change in AI. You know, once we get Stable Diffusion or whatever into as a node to where we can, you know, just basically type out whatever textures we want, you know, like that's going to be the big thing. And then like, I mean, it's crazy. This Chat GPT thing is absolutely insane to me because the number of times that I've found that I'm just going to go to Chat GPT instead of going to Google because it's going to just give me a direct answer versus like send me to a website that I'm then going to have to read through the entire thing to see if I can find that one snippet of information that I need. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It feels a little more like talking to a person. I for one, I absolutely love the AI art stuff. And I don't think the sky is falling. I think we're all going to be gainfully employed. You know, I went to I'm going to blank on it. There's a really wonderful conference, motion graphics conference in Chicago, Half Res,
yeah.
Fantastic. And the keynote was all about AI, and it was such a good keynote.
Yeah, see, that's where we met each other.
That's right.
Joey's talk on AI was really good. Was really good.
Topical, like, man, his timing on that talk was perfect because that's all anyone in the industry was talking about at that time. No, I think it's really encouraging because, like he said no credit, this is all Joey. He said in that talk, you know, we spend our whole lives trying to like train so that we can create what's in our mind, and this they're a lot faster. And I think like there will be people who are artists who never had the time to learn Unreal or C4D who can now maybe be an artist. Just they have the vision, they just don't know the technicals, and I think that's cool. I think we'll see an explosion in new art. So
talking about what's like coming out of your mind, putting that on into art. You know, I would love to see something more like the NVIDIA stuff that they built, where it's like you draw out a mountain and you draw out this, you know. I would love to see that incorporated with so many more options. Like, you know, like you draw an area and say cyberpunk, you know, robot or something like that, you know, and be able to fine tune it more and more.
Oh, absolutely. Cool. I think that's the like end game, right? I sketch a really crappy mountain on a napkin and I show it to my web camera and then boom, 3D mountain.
Yeah, right.
He's populated. I think that's the dream.
I love that.
But yeah, man. You know how much I have fun. Oh, I'm such a nerd. I have fun sitting on Midjourney and just making art at night. Like that's what I do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still single. But you know that will be like the 3D creation soon. That process, and I just think that's fun. And the amount of art that the world can make, I think that's gonna be cool. Yeah. Let's go AI. Yeah.
The thing that I'm not liking right now is people are starting to do like spammy stuff with ChatGPT, like, oh, buy this pack and you can get 10 prompts that make your prompts better.
Yeah.
Like, it's starting to be that, you know. I've
started a favorites collection on TikTok of all like the good AI things, you know, that I want to come back to that I probably never will, you know, like you do. And I apparently I favorited this guy, and he found me on Twitter and mailed me, like direct messaged me some of his things. I was like, whoa, that's a little, don't do that. Don't spam me like that, you know?
Oh,
it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Couple other quick things I had on the deal is articles. If you haven't checked out our articles, we got another article about Venom out this week. Amy's been working hard posting articles and stuff for us, and also Mograph TV. Turn it on, rip the knob off. You can watch this show live when it comes on, as well as like tons of other stuff. 24/7 Mograph. Turn it on, rip the knob off. And any camp announcements yet?
Nothing yet. Yet is the key word. But if you follow me on Be Real, you might have seen a teaser of sorts from my Be Real this week. But stay tuned. I will say, if you're not on the camp newsletter or the email list, make sure to sign up, because you know you may be getting something this week. I don't know, maybe. There's a chance. There's always a chance, but more than likely, probably. But you know, I don't know. I can't speak for sure, but probably.
Okay. All right then. So, Eric, let's talk about you. Let's talk about your whole thing. Your whole thing. We're talking about
Sure.
sports graphics today. You are the owner of Game Day Creative, and so we're going to talk about sports graphics in general, and also for people who want to get into it, I guess too. But so let's talk about how you got where you are in the first place. I guess probably a good start.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Well, I studied graphic design in university, South Dakota State University. And based out of South Dakota is the company Daktronics, and they're the manufacturer of large-scale LED boards, the jumbotron at stadiums. They had an internship available or a student position available where you could go and make graphics for these scoreboards. So that's how I got my start. And I essentially learned motion graphics on the job. My university just started teaching a motion graphics class where actually they brought in the employees from Daktronics to teach the class. So my boss was also my teacher. And then I kind of got my feet wet there. And I got to tell you, I sort of fell in love with sports graphics. There's a couple things I really like about them. One, more often than not, the sort of ask of the sports graphic is like, make this as big and as impactful and as cool as possible, which is a pretty cool prompt. Like that's pretty fun. I like the style system. Exactly. What pow? Yeah. Although unfortunately, no one lets us slam helmets together and have them explode.
Oh,
anymore.
right.
That's been done or something. Yeah. So I guess we have to reinvent
No, it's
it.
because they don't want to encourage head-to-head.
It's the
that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is. Well, we were working on some of the Madden stuff a few years ago. We had two helmets hitting, and they're like, "No, you can't do that. We don't want to encourage head-to-head, stuff."
Well, I think another thing that was cool about it is like the style of sports graphics. Just the status quo for what sports graphics was this like really high tech metal looks and glass looks and stuff, which was just kind of like graphic artists just showing off what the programs could do.
Right.
And part of like part of the style that got adopted is like, what is the coolest thing that we could do with these programs? So that made it a really fun space to explore. However, as like the career matured and the industry matured, the one great thing about sports is it has a great staying power. It's been popular forever. It will continue to be popular forever. I was saying before the show, that linear television, the sports broadcast, is the part that still has staying power, that isn't losing out to Instagram, which is great. So I think there's also a big like need and place for graphics in sports broadcast, and I actually think they're great for displaying information, elevating the experience, and all of that. So I think it's a pretty good home in the sports graphics space. I'm definitely happy that that's where I found myself, and it's still fun to create the big exciting stuff.
Sure. When you're creating them, are you specifically focusing on commercial sports graphics, or are you doing like entire broadcast packages for like, okay, this is for Sunday Night Football, these are all the the bugs and the lower thirds and everything,
Yeah, no, we do all of it. So actually, we just finished the World Cup package for Telemundo. Just got done airing. And those packages like that are 9 months long and something like 3,000 deliverables, and they're these huge lifts where it's every component of it. And then we also do some of the smaller stuff too. If someone's just looking for a bumper or just even like an open for the sports package, we'll do that as well. I find for me, I really enjoy the complete packages because I don't know, part of like, I like the design side, but the system side of things also I find really interesting. Like, how do we build a visual language that's going to work for everything you need for your graphics, and even like your emails and the verbiage and how you select stock photos. Like, we come up with a visual strategy for all that. That stuff's really rewarding. I like when
When you went to school, though, did you start like what kind of things were you learning in school to kind of get you to that point, though? Were you doing 3D in school, or?
No. My education was strictly traditional graphic design, which actually did work out pretty well because, learned some things about typography and stuff. And we do find pretty frequently, a lot of the really good 3D artists cannot lay out type to save their lives. So there's some good intersection there. But then on the job, that job I had, I did that all through school, and then that led to employment after school. So I had like 6 years of practical, motion graphics training, which was really great. And actually, their program was really well. They gave the students it was really good. They gave the students some space to explore. So some of it was, hey, can you resize this animation? But some of it was, can you just you have 2 hours, play around, make something cool. You're surrounded by experts in the field. Actually, this is something that I have, as far as like predictions and stuff go, that I have yet to crack. So that was an incredibly good experience, being around other professionals. You'd walk around and see what was cool on their screen, or, oh, that effects looks really cool. How did you make that? And while I like how remote work is going, I think there's a lot of really great tools. I haven't figured out how to recreate those moments.
Yeah.
And I'm a little worried about some of the up and coming, students or, people joining the workforce, because you gain so much by being around people, or just that moment. How'd you make that?
100%.
Cool.
Yeah, it's hard to recreate that in a work from home environment. I mean, we've got our Discord where we're on all day, and I know Dave will always throw his watch my stream, but like, how often am I sitting there just watching his stream?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So I don't know. It's there is something to be said about working in an actual studio alongside people, alongside other creatives, and being able to pick their brain, and like, oh, how did you do that? What did you do that? And then just upping your game so much more, But then you got the drive, and you don't want to deal with the drive every day. The commute. It's like,
the commute's murder. You got to
right.
Clothes, yeah, it gets rough. I wonder, we toyed with the idea of having like the open video channel where your like screen is being shared constantly, and it's all in a general chat room, and like, I guess that's how it is in the office, but it feels a little different. And like, does that work? I don't know. Maybe maybe we just all need the metaverse so we can be at home, but we're all in an office.
Right.
And then
100%.
Right? Yeah.
Need those new Apple AR glasses, right, Dave?
Yeah, that's right. They're coming soon. That's how Barton does it. I mean, they're not sharing screens constantly, but they do have their cameras going on Discord, kind of like what we're doing, except we're not all in the same company. He's got a little TV that shows everybody, like in the lobby, and they can all like hit each other up and say hi and whatever. Because there's a lot of people in the office. There's a lot of contractors as well. So.
Well, and one thing I found, I feel like for the social side of things, it works. Like, there's people I've never met in person, but I would call them my friend. So that connection develops over time. But it's the coaching part, or the helping out. And I don't. If anyone cracks that code, let me know.
Yeah.
Send me an email when we figure that one out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see VR being a thing with that. Like, I don't know. Me, when I worked in an actual studio, man, I'm the worst when it comes to working in a studio, because I'll do like maybe 30 minutes of work, and then I'll hate having to sit down, and I'll want to get up and walk around and bug everyone else, and then I'll go back. Dave knows. I used to do this a lot.
He'd walk in his cardigan and be like,
right?
"What you doing?"
And so the thing is, I just, I'm a social butterfly or whatever. And it's like, yeah. But like, if you're in VR, it's like, what's the point of getting up and walking around, or like transporting yourself to somewhere else and being like, hey, what's going on?
What you doing?
Yeah, just bug you.
Yeah. A hovering art director is the worst. Imagine a virtual hovering art director.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh man.
Oh man, that'd be so good.
You don't even know. You can't even hear them. Like, they just appear over your shoulder all of a sudden.
It's got that proximity thing, so you just hear them breathing heavily.
Yeah.
You can't minimize your screen real quick. Yeah, there's no
true.
warning that they're coming over.
Yeah. Reddit's still open. You're like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at my username.
I promise. Yeah, exactly. I was looking up C4D techniques, I swear.
So, you learned all of those techniques like typography and stuff, and something Matt and I were talking about the other day is there are still people that I've seen through their whole career that I'll look at their work and I'm like, they still haven't learned typography. It's been 20 years,
Yep.
They
still have not figured out how to frame something correctly,
or timing and stuff. And like I said when we were having a conversation, I'm like, I don't claim to be the best artist in the entire universe or anything, but there's certain people that I'm like, man, 20 years and you still haven't learned design. There's stuff about like design, about timing, keyframe timing, things like that. And especially when it comes to sports graphics, it's hard to do. You might have, like, let's say 80 frames to accomplish something, right? And
everything is so fast.
It's so fast. And
so fast.
Sometimes you just can't make everything fly on the screen. Like, it would have to take a long time. And so the solution is like, okay, how can you get this on screen by like maybe scaling it up or fading it in or whatever it is. You really have to know a lot about again, about typography, about timing, about lighting. You have to be able to tell that story in that constraint, you know.
And this is probably unfair to, I understand there's so many other artists who are like so talented, but that's the one thing I think of, like motion graphic artists in particular have to know so many skill sets that really the masters of that are some of the best artists in the world. Like, you have to have a deep technical knowledge. Like some of the, some of those programs are really difficult to use. You have to have that artistic eye, the understanding of motion, lighting, design principles. There is a lot to store in your head.
It's why I always say graphic designers make the best motion designers, you know, because they already have a good understanding of typography and, you know, design principles and stuff like that, versus, you know, like we came from a video background, so we understand like camera and lighting and stuff like that. But
that's what made me a very good technical artist, but not a good artist. Like it took a lot for me, you know, maybe about 10 years ago, I think, to say, you know what, I see the problem here is that I'm just learning something technical and being like, oh, I know how to do that. And maybe somebody could throw me something and say, make it look like this, but I really wasn't paying attention to the art. And it takes a lot to recognize that you really have to pay attention to that. Like, to stop and say, I'm going to work on, like, my design skills, you know.
For sure.
Yeah, there's you can learn and actually this is just good advice for someone trying to get into it. Learn the buttons, because you'll learn where all the buttons are, all the technical stuff. You can do that in a month. You can spend your entire lifetime studying design and never master it. Like, that's the hard part. But seriously, get the buttons out of the way, because that's like, don't ever let your design be dictated just because you don't know how to do it. Like, learning the programs is easy compared to mastering the art of it. And one thing that I think is interesting is, like, and this is definitely true in the sports graphic world, you know, I was saying before, is kind of like people just, what's the coolest thing we can do with this program? All graphic design is happening, but the bar keeps getting raised and raised and raised. You know, it's elevated. We're standing on the shoulders of the artists before us. We're all getting better. We're improving. One thing that's happening with that is we're starting to get more specialized. So now you have your simulation guy, you have your lighting guy, your texturing guy, you know, and that's how they do the really big lifts. And for me, I do think that I'm torn here, because I think the end product is really beautiful when you have all those specializations. You can achieve some really cool things, although I think it might be a little less rewarding as the individual contributor. Like, I like designing a complete animation as opposed to just modeling the logo and handing it off.
Sure.
So that might be part of why I'm kind of excited for like AI, because I think it might empower individual contributors to once again start creating stuff at the bar that we become accustomed to, which I think would be cool. Yeah. There's always that balance of like fulfillment versus that's where you get the longevity in the industry, is enjoying it. So
how do you keep it fresh? Because, you know, we have done a lot of sports graphics, but we do a lot of other stuff. So sometimes it's nice we step over to something else, do an explainer video, do a product video, do whatever, come back, and then sports graphics again. It's a refresh, but you are doing it all the time.
For sure. Well, I guess one little secret is we actually do plenty of other stuff, although that doesn't go on our website as much. But in addition, I think keeping it fresh is, of course, one of the largest challenges for any motion graphic studio or artist. So, you know, some of the, of course, basic tricks are like know everything and watch everything. Like, consume as much motion graphics as you can. Like, you know, check out scroll Behance every day. Go to Mograph.com, maybe watch some of their live, some of their live streams, but definitely stay up to speed on what the styles and trends are. I have this little piece of philosophy. I like that. design is a art with purpose, and I think you can objectively say that a design is good or bad when you limit it to a particular time and place. So I can say for an American audience in the year 2023, this design is good because I know the sensibilities of that artist. I know the status quo of the art being made. So I think it's important to like be abreast of that. Like you have to know what those are, but now how to keep it fresh and how to like when you don't want to just make what's going on, but you want to be maybe a little subversive or push the, move the needle or expand on it. That's a challenge. And one place we find in sports graphics that actually works really well is to look at other disciplines, to peer at like what is fashion up to, what are what are they doing over there, what is like architecture doing that's cool, and those areas are inventing, and then we can take inspiration from that, and then we translate it. We know motion sports graphics, so we can pull in that inspiration and put it through the sports graphics filter, and then you can get some. So there's definitely some inspiration to be had from other artistic disciplines. Is definitely
That's cool.
Yeah,
super cool.
A big source.
There's been, I mean, there are different trends. We should talk about some of the trends, actually. Like, what do you think some of the sports graphics trends have been? You got the shiny metallic glass stuff, but like, in the last couple years, there's been a lot more flat stuff. You probably been doing that. You look at like Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Amazon Thursday Night Football now. What are some of the trends you've seen over the years?
For sure. Well, I think you nailed it. There was definitely like the big 3D. And then we left like big 3D abstract for big 3D realistic, like inside of stadiums or, if you're doing a ski event on the side of the mountain. And then for the last few years, what has been incredibly dominant is this really like high production 3D edited in or, using editorial cuts combined with strong 2D graphic design. And actually for like 3 years, that equaled sports graphics. It was really cool typography layouts spliced with really high-end simulation boom equals sports graphics. But I think just by virtue of us being able to identify that trend means that it's at the end of its life cycle. I think what's at least popular right now, and I think this is because the barrier to entry is coming down, is simulations. Like really high-end, photoreal, hyper-real, like more than, there's a really great hockey package where, the floor freezes over in a way that couldn't actually happen in real life, but it looks really freaking cool when it happens, so I think that really high-end, like VFX level simulation stuff, it's becoming more, that was reserved for Hollywood films because they're the only people that have the budget to do that stuff, but as the tech is getting better, that's more available.
Right.
So I think we are seeing a strong push in that direction. That's pretty popular right now. What's going to follow that? Tough to say. I hope we're the ones that make it though. Probably won't be. So we gotta. But someone's gonna crack that code. And there's a part of me that I don't mind when working inside of a trend because again, I think you can objectively say that that's good design for that time and place. I think that's fun, and there's still a lot of latitude inside of a visual trend. Like when someone watches something, they watch it and their reaction is, oh, that's really cool. That's still a rewarding reaction. Also, them saying, wow, I've never seen that before. That's a really cool reaction, too. So, at least for now, I think simulations are gonna reign. I don't know. Are we gonna go back to? Is grunge gonna make a comeback? Are we gonna?
It's we're into the 90s loop.
Is that
where it goes from the 50s to the 2000s, and it just loops back and forth. We've already hit the 80s. I think grunge is coming back, which is great because I love grunge style. I can't even tell you how much I love grunge style.
We actually had a project that came up there where they were trying to use grunge style, and then we're like, okay, but let's just call it something other than grunge. What if we call it like streetwear? Just so it sounds hip, But so maybe it's grunge 2.0.
Do you are you mainly a C4D team?
Yeah, we're entirely C4D.
Cool.
We'll, if necessary, we'll mess with the other programs, especially if that's what the client needs to deliver in. But that definitely has some complications. So we're primarily C4D, Redshift, Pipeline, with After Effects compositing.
Cool. I wasn't sure if you're dabbling into any Unreal stuff because especially in live sports right now, you're getting a ton of this, Unreal stuff that is just.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming out with that like live compositor like graphics package thing too. So,
It's actually funny. I guess we're actually completely Unreal. I don't think to say that because it's just kind of happened organically, out of like necessity. And our pipeline is still to design and build in C4D and then port to Unreal. So it does, but that's definitely a huge part of it. And actually on that, man, I love trying to make predictions about where this industry is headed. But one prediction that I might venture a guess at is I think, kids born today, when they watch a broadcast, they'll like see from today, they'll like, 20 years from now, when they watch old broadcasts, they'll be like, wow, they just put the graphics right on top of the feed, not on the field. Like they just interrupted the broadcast to throw a graph. That's so weird. It's a flat graphic, not tracked in the 3D space. Like I think, because we're already seeing that like with the popularity of augmented reality and and AR, and as all that stuff starts to, I think, will continue to grow. I think the incorporation of like real-time graphics integrated into their environments is just going to keep getting bigger.
Are you doing a lot of that already, or?
Absolutely, yeah. I would say every graphics package that ships now, it's kind of guaranteed that it's going to have an AR component. It just depends on how large of an AR component. And I think, for me, I honestly wish it'd be bigger, but the problem is there's a complexity of these systems, so to pull off a broadcast, especially with an AR component, the director has to be on board, the producer has to be on board, the cameraman has to be trained to know how to shoot this AR graphic. You have to have the technology in place, you have to have the operators in place. So there's actually a pretty big logistical lift to having like a truly integrated AR experience. Now you do see this on some broadcasts, and it's cool, and I think it works. But for me, like where the kind of the end game of this is where your drone has the AR head, camera head, and instead of just kind of shooting the AR graphic with a camera that just sort of drifts side to side, the drone will fly around it in a choreographed, maybe even pre-programmed manner that really like shows off the 3D, and the 3D animates as the drone is doing this, but it's all live, so the crowd's still there and stuff. Like I think that level of choreography is possible, and probably where we're headed with that stuff. Or even set designs, like AR sets are really popular because fabrication cost, is really the
of course
main thing there. But the strategy for AR sets has always been like make it look real. But I think that's a little bit of a dated way of thinking because we're not constrained by physics anymore. Like I don't have to worry about whether or not I can support this 10,000 piece of steel. I can just have it floating there, or more importantly, I can have it animate. So I think there's probably some opportunity for sets to act and respond to what the anchor is talking about or what the talent is speaking to. So I think we'll probably, and I also think that might be a little jarring for viewers now, but as they become more and more accustomed to it and they look back at old sets, they'll be like, oh, wow, it's so static. The plant just sat on the shelf the whole time. It didn't, it didn't change colors as they were talking about different teams. It's so weird.
Jason was asking about Joey's talk in here. It is not online yet, and that is 100% my fault because the person operating the board at the venue we were at Half Res, we gave them a card to record it on, and every 20 minutes there's like 2 minutes missing. And so I'm trying to figure out how to take the ambient audio maybe through Adobe Podcast and fix it. It sucks. Anyway, back to this.
I also blame that on me because I should have run a cable directly to our audio thing. But he's like, "Oh yeah, give me an SD card. I'll record it right on there." All right, cool.
Yeah, we're working on it. But to go back to what you were talking about, you're working with these people doing AR, and like you said, one of the things they've been doing for years is to put like a football game, to put the down marker, to put the line across the field. But that was very specially set up. It's like this specific camera. They have these like radio things and everything on the field to line it up. But now it's a little bit different the way that people are doing AR and things. So when you're trying to create something for that, like how far at this point in time where we are with the technology, are you able to go ahead and like simulate that, right? Like how would you go about, we want this thing on the field and it's going to do this. Well, can you even do that with footage that isn't live? Like what is the process?
It's complicated, and it's really dependent on each individual broadcaster or partner and how far they are into like this adoption pipeline. Because some people are really ahead of the game and they have really great setups, and you could do a lot, and they have multiple cameras with multiple tracking heads. But honestly, I'd say probably the biggest bottleneck on that is really what the hardware is on site. And I think what's going to happen is optical tracking through, again, AI, but kind of different aspect AI, is going to win out, because then it doesn't matter what camera you have. They just send me the feed and I track it in. It doesn't, I can just put it into anything and track it.
Right.
It's done. So I imagine that's probably the end game. I don't really know how far out that is. But right now, it's a long conversation, with the client, like what's possible. But also, like, there's a big thing about this is really, I mean, the directors, like, what is your broadcast, and what do you want? What do you want this look and feel of this show? And actually, this is, I think, a thing that sports graphics is doing well. Again, we're getting a little away from just giant helmets slamming together, big shiny metal. Right. I think a big push is to be more authentic to the sports and the fans, and like try and capture some of the personality of, I guess, both the sport itself and the audience that watches it. And I think with that push for authenticity, the type of show they want to have is a little more curated. So, for example, some directors just don't want to cut to a giant, big 3D graphic. It's not about your graphics, guys. And of course, they're wrong. It's the only reason people watch graphics. But it's fine. So sometimes they, no, let's keep it live on camera. And soccer/football, I think, does a really good job of that. They don't cut to commercial. It's uninterrupted. And there's some of that, like, purity is some of the authenticity to the fan. Like they, and even when they do the double box to get an advertiser in there, like, the fans aren't happy about it, but they understand it has to happen. It's a necessity. But yeah, so I think that one's a really tough one to answer, because it's just so different for each client and their needs, which I like. But the one thing I will say, actually, though, where it's really fun is the esports space, because those people, like, all the rules are out the window. It's the Wild West.
They're on the bleeding edge too, right? Like, they're trying all the new stuff.
Well, they don't have this legacy pipeline, and they're like, for example, one problem that broadcasters run into is there's not enough 4K, like 4K trucks are really expensive. So just the literal cords and wires to do these things are very expensive. But esport, all this stuff is ground up new, and they're building these esports arenas. Like, look at what Riot Games is up to with their, like, they have these global broadcast system with different languages, and it's getting so cool. So that space, I think people are trying some things, and also they're like not scared to mess up, which is cool, because that rough around the edges is part of their identity. That's where, like, you watch Sunday Night Football, it's buttoned up, which, if you watch Sunday Night Football that wasn't buttoned up, it'd bother you. You'd be like, oh man, can we go back to the but there's something fun for so I love that space, because it's just people are trying things.
Is it mostly Unreal when you're doing this, though? Like, I know it depends on what they have, but is it usually Unreal that you're delivering in for that?
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I was going to ask. What are the deliverables that you're sending off to the client?
Oh, totally. So I would say Unreal is, of course, the most popular, but it comes in different wrappers. So, like, sometimes it's VizRT, Unreal via VizRT, or, so there's a few different ways, but Unreal is definitely the most popular. And part of me wonders if that, like, how'd they pull that off? Is it just because that's the cool name, and I'm sure the people at NAB, have, there's cost and stuff related to that, but no, definitely Unreal is what comes up the most.
Interesting.
Interesting. I guess we all gotta change our New Year's resolution to learn.
I know.
There you go.
I was really trying not to, but
I was always kind of worried I was gonna have to sit down and, like, make a point of learning Unreal. But I just kind of had this realization that necessity is gonna force me to do that, because it's just gonna be, I have a project that has to get delivered in Unreal, and I have 3 hours to do it, and that's when I'll learn it.
Right.
Realistically, that's when I'll learn it. It'll be a little frustrating, but yeah.
What different types of projects have you worked on? Like tell us some of the ones that you really liked.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, of course, all the sports broadcast ones, love those, but we do a bunch of news broadcast graphics. So those have been a little bit of a different ask. For me personally, I like those quite a bit, because they're heavy in information delivery. So, that graphic design thing I studied maybe gets to come out a little. I like that. We also did a bunch of work with Twitch, and honestly, I really do love that space. It's just so fun to see them, trying to innovate and try different things. We do corporate events. We do commercial broadcast. Let me think, which ones? So really, the big sports. We do Jeopardy. That's right.
Oh yeah. Just Jeopardy. No big deal.
The ones that are the most exciting for me are the large sports broadcast packages. I think you really get to kind of show off like, 1 years of practice, and you get to play with the tools you love, and they're really these big 3D moments, which I love. And then probably a second place is the information delivery systems. I'm a sucker for the insert packs where there's a lot of typography. I like how complicated they are and how many different things you have to satisfy with those. I think those are really fun too.
I think it's funny like that you have the Sunday Night Football in here, because as part of the Madden package, Matt and I had to imitate the Sunday Night Football. So we had to basically iterate on what you did.
And we didn't want it. They didn't want it to look too much like Sunday Night Football,
right.
But they wanted it to look like Sunday Night Football,
right?
Because
that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah, it's funny.
Right. It is funny how like there's like 5 people who make how it's such a small industry and such a small world. Like, just run into that. Oh, that's cool. And huge shout out to them, that the designers over there made this. But the amount of time clients have said, "Can it look like SportsCenter?"
Yeah.
Pretty common. Yeah. No, they did a good job with that one. SportsCenter was king of the kingdom for years and years, which was
right. That was the big.
Love the cloth stuff that you did on that. What is that? CBS? Is that CBS? Yeah.
Yeah, there was one you were showing off. I don't remember which one now. You were in Vancouver. Was it Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
You were showing something off there, and I don't remember which one it was now. What was your presentation?
It was on the road to the World Cup.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a cloth package that more or less avoided any cloth simulation.
You got EJ for that anyway. You don't,
right?
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I do got to tell you, it was so funny. His talk in Vancouver, he spoke about cloth simulation, and our team was working on a cloth simulation that day, and I was like, quick, everyone, turn it on the
Stop the presses.
What we need. Yeah. Stop what you're doing. They have exactly what we need. I like a sucker for the cloth simulation stuff has been around for a while, but I got to tell you, the overhaul to the C4D cloth is exciting. Yeah, there's definitely some hurdles there.
Yeah, Vancouver was great. Vancouver got to finally do Seagraph again. Hung out with Ellie. We were having a conversation on the meaning of the universe. I'm trying to remember the one specific thing we were talking about where you kind of like, we had this conversation, then a couple days later you hit me up again. You're like, man, I've been thinking about that the other day. It totally messed with my head.
I know exactly what it is.
Which one?
I wasn't even there. It was, there's a theory that when you die, you never actually die.
That's right.
You just go on to a different, universe, and you continue. The rest of the people around you, they'll die, but you can never actually die. You just go on to the next universe.
Yeah.
You're in the timeline where you didn't die, and then all other ones did, and that of course you are, because otherwise you wouldn't be experiencing it. Which is that was that. How'd you know that? How'd you know?
I honestly was thinking about it just like today or yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just keep going, and you're just in this timeline where medicine and biotechnology is going to get so good that you're just going to keep living forever. And
So what is it? Are we in a simulation or not?
Yeah, we are.
So what's the verdict on this?
We are.
I'm beginning.
And is it
to think
Unreal that's powering the simulation?
No, it's not Unreal.
It's
definitely Unreal.
Unreal Infinity.
See what you did there. Yeah, exactly.
Especially with the stuff coming out now that some things don't even really like exist unless we observe them and all of that. The double slit experiment, and man, I see too many TikToks on it. That's the problem.
Seen the TikTok on that too. It's like the computer just isn't processing it until you look at it. There was, I'm going to screw this up, but very recently someone won a Nobel Peace Prize for this, about if a tree falls in the wood, does it make a sound? And no, it doesn't. Like unless it's experienced by something, it doesn't exist. Was kind of there.
Yeah, unless it's observed.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the only thing that I don't understand about that
Real
is
engine.
in
I
some
like
way,
that.
shape, or form, it actually, like, what it does will the molecules hit something and butterfly effect and cause something else. So I mean, technically, it could all be observed. It has to be, but I don't know. I heard Neil
Right?
deGrasse Tyson actually going off on this, talking about, well, the reason that we don't see a lot of the stuff beyond what we can see in the sky could be that reason. Like, it's just, it hasn't been, the CPU isn't running any cycles on that.
Right? It just doesn't, because it doesn't need it. You know what? Well, the one thing I do like to think about is
Human
like
music.
I like it. Yeah.
This is good. Low power. Um, the one thing I do like to think about with that is, at least for like from our industry standpoint, is actually, well, one, I think it's really exciting because as like the metaverse maybe starts to pick up a little steam and we actually do try and push this VR thing and we're going to be the ones who get to make that universe because we're the ones who's got the talent, which I think is sweet. Like I think we're well positioned. And actually, as an artist, like, don't sleep on the fact that they're like one of the largest tech companies in the world announced they're like putting their entire emphasis on making the metaverse. Like Meta came out and said this is they're the biggest, one of the biggest companies in the world is, and I don't know if it's going great for them, but it is cool to be in this industry because I do think there's a huge push in that direction. I think making that world's fun, but on the like, are we in a simulation standpoint, I think at least for us, all we have to do is trick humans, which I don't think is that hard. It doesn't have to be a perfect simulation. It's just got to be enough to convince us.
Right.
Which
Have y'all seen Dark City?
No.
It was a movie that came out in 1998, and it has messed with me a lot. It was about the same time that The Matrix and the 13th Floor came out. So like, what it is this dude lives in the cities and he's having like weird memories of his past, which include like his wife that he can't remember and blah blah blah. But what ends up being is that like every night when everyone goes to sleep, the city changes and then they completely change everyone's memories, to like observe how people react. So it's like, for me, it's not so, I haven't been, so much on, what is if this is a simulation or not, but, or what is this the actual next day versus did someone mess with me and I am not experiencing the actual day that I have lived? Like, is my whole life just a made up story and I'm just living this moment right now until I fall asleep, and then tomorrow it will be a whole nother story? I mean, I have all these memories, I remember everything, but will tomorrow, will I be Dave? Will Dave be me?
Stoner thoughts. And the theory that everybody has been everybody.
I love that theory.
Yeah,
I love that theory. I read a short story on Reddit or something about someone who died, and they're up in heaven, and they're like, you've been everyone. We're about to send you back, but you have been everyone. You've lived every life, and I love that. I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah. If we are in a simulation, I want that to be the case because I've lived every one of y'all's lives, and apparently I was Hitler too, but I got to deal with that.
Just some baggage.
Right?
I'm rooting for reincarnation to be the actual, right? Like I want those. Yeah. I want to know what it's like to be a gazelle.
I've seen everybody's internet history.
And you still invited me to the podcast?
Everyone naked.
Wait.
Yeah. Yeah, we could be in a simulation though. I mean, like the sky could be an HDR, and the further we expand out, the further you have to make the HDR. It's got to get a little bigger so the satellites can get up there.
Somewhere there's a graphics artist where they're like, hey, they invented a bigger telescope, and he's like,
damn it.
You're telling me I have to paint 8 more universes?
I gotta simulate all
like,
these
we're gonna need this by tomorrow, and he's like, but you're gonna pay my full rate, right? And they're like, no.
Right.
No. I gotta make this whole universe over the weekend.
Right.
You know what? I've come up with a way to where we can just place a texture image over the lens of the
telescope.
Over the telescope.
Yeah.
Right.
It's AR.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Man, do you think that someday our technology will actually get that powerful to be able to simulate? Because we're already doing stuff like simulating quantum physics and wormholes and You know.
I guess, yeah, I think it depends on your definition of success in that, because I think to get the power where you can simulate something that's completely convincing for my senses as a human, touch, smell, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they can trick me in a convincing way that I don't care that it's a simulation, which is sweet.
So like quantum qubits or whatever they call them are basically just pixels. Voxels.
Right.
They're voxels. Yeah.
There's a
Voxels,
quantum physicist
yeah.
somewhere who was like, no.
That's not how any of this works.
Yeah. Stupid graphic designers.
Yeah, right? Not everything's graphic design. Yeah.
Dave, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally.
Yeah, that's my problem. This is heavy. So, I guess to switch gears a little bit, have you done any like solo projects or anything like that? Do you have plans to?
Not in recent years. I have a couple passion projects that, of course, I've been, meaning to make time for 10 years now.
Mhm.
But pretty busy with the company, which I think, is great. And actually, really, really enjoying that. It's pretty fulfilling and pretty rewarding. So that's definitely been the main focus. And even with some of that, there's like, it's the classic journey you run into. I started off as an artist, and now I'm creative director is probably what I spend most of my time doing. And there's a lot of skills that I didn't learn in art school that now I have to pick up, aside from Unreal, like interpersonal leadership dynamics. And
taxes.
Honestly,
The
tax
fingerprint
code.
means
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely taken up some of my time. And actually, I guess the personal projects I have though that I would like to do are, well, one is it's learn some of the new technologies. If I was really going to dedicate the time, it'd be to pick up something. Yeah, and
that's hard.
So yeah, go ahead.
It's hard. It's hard to find the time for that.
Yeah, sure.
Like, what's the best way to do that? Who knows?
And man, if you heard the saying, and it's like so frustrating when you hear it, you're like, why you gotta call me out like that? But they say, like, don't say you don't have the time, say it's not a priority, and you're like,
right.
but
Yeah.
surfing, that's a priority for me.
Well, that's
don't take this away from me. Yeah.
right. Exactly. I've said it on the show before. Cover your ears. The thing that Merlin Mann says is, you don't have to find time to masturbate. And I know it's a little lewd, but it's kind of true. There are things in life that are priority and are not on the schedule, and they happen anyway. And like, you have to make a decision each day. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going into a day? Sometimes you might decide, hey, I'm gonna learn Unreal today.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, life happens because and stuff that isn't on the calendar comes up. So, do you do like you said, where you just wait until the client comes to you and then you learn, or maybe is there a good way to start going about learning some of this stuff? Like, if somebody right now is like, I need to learn Unreal, but I don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get your foot in the door?
That's a good.
You
Definitely
just
necessity. Yeah.
Right?
I think it's this. Just start is probably the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
Is just start. Yeah.
You have to I got picked up for an Unreal job for the next few months, and so I don't know it that well. So I spent 2 weeks. I had no work, So I invested 2 weeks of my time kind of like learning it. I didn't spend that entire 2 weeks, but I'd go into it and play around. And, I would try different things and stuff like that to see what worked best. But you just got to do it.
I guess you just got to
do
it.
It's just you just got to do it. That's probably right.
Here's the problem right now that I have found, because I'm on LinkedIn every single day, unfortunately. LinkedIn's better than Facebook, I will tell you that much.
True.
But
Facebook. Sorry about that.
the amount of jobs that are on LinkedIn right now that are looking for Unreal artists, are exponentially huge.
Right.
The thing is, if you want to be a C4D artist, and this was another thing that I was struggling with, where it's like, okay, do I learn Substance and or do I just keep on keeping on and using Grayscale Gorilla textures and doing my thing, or do I have to? I've got to expand, because it's like the jobs out there right now are especially dedicated towards Unreal, and some of the companies, they don't give a crap what you're working in,
right,
as long as the end pipeline is in Unreal,
Mm-hmm. So we hire a lot of freelancers. We use tons of contractors, and what we find is like whenever we need Unreal artists, is one, there's only 4 of them in the whole world, so it is not enough. And then by virtue of that, they can just kind of like they just name their price, and you're always like, but what do? You have no so. Yeah. I guess maybe that's how you get motivated to learn it, is you look at the page. Probably, if you're I do think you're incredibly employable if you learn Unreal, because that's if you go to like NAB, the trade shows, that's what all this stuff is. There's real time everything, and we know we're headed that direction, and that's the incentive. Mm-hmm. I will say there's sort of this breakthrough that happens to me though, and probably I think with all artists, and it's maybe why we got into the first place, where I actually start enjoying the thing, and then it's not a task anymore. It's what I want to do, like to learn the new tech. So and you don't get to that unless you just start. So maybe it's just be like, okay, fine, I'm going to do it today, and then maybe you actually start enjoying it. And it's no
the biggest thing is with me is like figuring out a good way in which it will work within my pipeline.
Right.
Versus like for me, I've always prided myself on being fast. And like if a client comes to me and they're like, oh yeah, we've got 3 days for this, can you do it in 3 days? Sure, I could do it in half a day, and knock it out and charge for 3 days. Yeah, exactly. But it's like I've always prided myself on being fast. Is adding Unreal or is adding Substance or adding these additional tools into my pipeline, is that going to cause me to slow down?
Right.
And if it does, that's okay, as long as the quality that's coming out, is exponentially better, that, can necessitate like,
you know what? That's
doing the
absolutely
extra time.
That is my biggest hang up. I already know how to do this. Why do I need to learn how to do it again, slower and not looking as good?
Right.
Yep.
That's
the trade-off is bad too, because there's like an equation there. If you're really, and actually, Matt, I just couldn't agree more. A quick detour. Again, we hire a lot of people. The 2 primary skills, I think, the 2 most valuable skills a motion graphics artist can have that makes them employable, is be a good person. Number 1, like no one wants to work with jerks. I'm going to have to talk to you every day. Like I don't want someone who's upset when they have to do creative feedback. Like that's just
and be responsive to emails and all that stuff. Yeah.
It turns out people like working with the people they like working with.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then 2 is be fast. I think, and I think you could actually make a pretty strong argument that speed improves your quality, because you can do more iterations, you can try more things.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
And when something slows you down, if it only, like you said, if it only improves a little, if it's not an exponential improvement, your overall like time to quality ratio dropped. Of course, you're not going to make that trade. So. Yeah,
that's why like I like working in Octane, because I know I'm faster in Octane than I am in Redshift. That's just because that's my preference is Octane. But it's not that I can't do.
It's all right. Just learn standard surface. If you learn the standard surface shader, like it translates to every other DCC or every other render engine now.
But it's still it's that comfortable zone, right? And the same thing applies to Unreal. What I'm trying to figure out what would be like a good thing to do. Like, okay, do a product render. Do the product in Cinema, because that's where, we're comfortable. Or Blender if you're a Blender person. Go into Substance, get it textured out, bring it in Unreal, let the thing install for 5 hours for your first, set up your project for 5 hours and let it do all the things in the background for some reason. And then once you get to that point, bring in the product, try and light it, try and render it, try and make it not look super aliased and, weird. And that seems like it would be a pretty short journey. But like, part of me is like, well, where do I even start there? Because most of the stuff online is about learning how to make games.
Yeah.
Well, I've been hurt in the past by programs being like, no, once you learn it, it's more efficient. And then like, okay, I guess I'll take the time to learn it. And then you get there and you're like, but you lied. Like, but
Right.
it didn't actually get easier at any point. Yeah. There's a lot of programs like, when you get more specialized, it's like, okay, let's say the goal is to get an object to the corner. So a lot of programs are boxes and it's kind of cumbersome to move it there. You have to turn it and roll it. But once it gets there, it fits perfectly in the corner. The programs that we want, though, is a ball. All you have to do is roll it. When it gets to the corner, it doesn't fit perfect, but it got there really fast.
Right.
So that's it's just the promise made. You just get hurt by those. Oh, look at this really great tool, and it's really easy to use. It's spoiler, it's not easy to use.
That's the tough part.
Yeah.
Like as far as Unreal, I know you have a whole team and everything. Are you the one doing all the Unreal stuff, or are you doing more of the creation and see? Okay.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah, we're on the creation side. Yep. And then the porting side, and we've definitely learned some things about how to like get models over to Unreal in a more efficient way. But it's still not it's not the instant pipeline you want.
Well, I was going to ask you if UVing is an issue, but I mean, I guess Substance helps with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I am just so happy about the whole Substance thing because really, and actually we tell our artists this, it's just no longer efficient for you to make materials. Even I know some artists really love doing that, but especially in the broadcast world, the libraries are just gotten so good that it's sure you need to know how to manipulate them. That's definitely, but realistically, don't. There's just no world where it's worth your time to make. Just use the Grayscale Gorilla ones. There's It's just there's no world that it's worth your time to make copper again. They've made copper.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
great. You can age it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I do is
actually,
mirror textures. Just set the index and forget it. But other than that, I'm going to libraries all the time now.
Oh, of course. And of course, you need to know how to tweak them. There's got to be some availability for art direction there, but
that's
never
easy.
start from scratch.
The thing is, like,
same with models.
The quality over the past probably 10 years, 5 years or so has just gotten exponentially better, especially with the GPU rendering. I think the GPU rendering was a big push because people knew that they could throw more at a material, like if you look at some of those old, CG Axis textures or,
CG Axis.
Oh man, I know.
And it's like, those are awful.
CGtextures.com, remember that one?
And it's like now it's like you would take those and you'd be like, okay, I've got to spend some time on this, or I got to recreate it myself. But now the textures are like, they get you 90% of the way there now,
Here's actually something that I think is pretty interesting is like procedural noise patterns are getting better and better, but I still feel like we're kind of trapped in having image-based textures if you really want them to look good. I imagine that's another prediction for me that finally we'll get to all procedural-based textures, but let's just say you're having a brick wall that's generated procedurally. The procedural will include a sticker on it every now and then, or a crack in the brick, or pipe, like details like that are, you get from image-based textures will finally make it way into noise patterns. Like, and actually, not for nothing, I think that's why when C4D was so popular, its noise library was really good.
Right.
Like, that noise library was fire. It hasn't, and not trying to hate on it hasn't aged well. Like it's been 10 years. We need an updated with way more complicated noise pattern. And that actually is for me. That's a thing the pet peeve of mine. If I see a texture and I'm like, I can tell this is a repeating pattern, guys. Like,
I know Naki when I see it.
Yeah, exactly. I know. You know what? Another pet peeve of mine is trying to get increase visual interest through repetition. So they're like, the scene isn't interesting enough. I know, I'll throw it in a cloner. 7 more of them. Yeah, you filled the screen, but it wasn't purposeful. It wasn't done with intention. That is and it's and I know why CG artists do it because it's a very quick solution. And sure, it's a 5% improvement, but it just feels so unintentional that drives me nuts. Repetition.
You ever seen repeated textures in real life? Those bug the crap out of me.
Yeah, like on tile walls and stuff. And then you notice it, and you're like, this is
I noticed that first thing as a kid.
Driving down the freeway, anytime you see some of those stamped like concrete on the side, and it's the exact same texture, or my tiles in my freaking shower are all like
linoleum,
the same texture, or there's like 3 of them that are the same, and I'm like, come on, guys.
This is when you know you've been in CG too long.
Right?
Totally. Like you stare at the shot and you're like, I will say though, I've actually been in a couple like showers where I'm like, you did a pretty good job with it. Like I'll find 2 tiles identical, but I'll be like, this is a pretty complicated tile pattern here, guys.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah, like someone put some time. This is not just a noise pattern.
I mean, and like the guys who are doing the tiles in my they kept them the same way instead of turning them.
Right.
It's like, come on, at least rotate.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid,
offset a little bit.
We had this linoleum growing up, and you're a kid, you're playing with cars and stuff on the floor. You know, you're on the floor a lot when you're a kid, and you notice this stuff. I would start to notice like patterns in the linoleum tile that would look like something. Like, oh, this one looks like a bunny, and this one looks like, and I'm like, oh, there's a bunny here. There's like 4 bunnies in the kitchen. There's, that was my first experience with it. But if you had that, the great thing is that AI is going to help with that pretty soon too.
Yeah.
Be able
to
to
throw it
fix
into
that.
a chaos node, but you can't do that in real life. Right?
But AI is going to be able to do things like create procedural textures or create normal maps and all the things you need.
Or not procedural, just make it the size that you need it, for on screen,
Yeah.
Maybe that's probably this. It is funny because I saw this. It is in Joey's talk. He showed it where they had the viewport in C4D was actively being rendered in an AI. And so they moved the flower vase and rendered it. And then that's when I realized, I was like, oh, render engines aren't the future. It's this. This is what all my texturing will be done in. And I'll just tell the AI shinier, glossier, but it's not actually going to be ray tracing. And like, honestly, sorry, ray tracing, but that was just 20 years in the wrong direction. We're totally going to but we are. Like,
on that note, make sure to pick up our course RTX On. It's all about ray tracing and Unreal Engine.
Well, and that honestly, that's kind of the trade-off too. Is like, I mean, these are the tools I have now, so I have to use them, but they are going to be probably obsolete sooner than I'd like.
Yeah.
Noise patterns.
Yeah.
I actually saw the thing once. They asked some students like, hey, write down numbers 1 through 10, 500 digits or whatever, and then they're gonna have a computer generate them. And the problem is, like, when a person tries to think what they think is random, they don't put 5 7s in a row. They change the digit every time. But true random is sometimes there's just 10 7s in a row.
Right.
And that's what noise patterns don't do well right now. Is they're just different digits in each one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pseudo random.
Yeah, exactly. It's pseudo random. Yeah.
That's why they use static generators to get real randomness.
So
pointing a camera at a TV with analog static.
Oh.
And that's how they pull it?
That's how you get real random. Because just the way that technology works in general, technically you can't have real random. Yeah. So if you point a camera...
Well, I mean, if you know about all the background radiation from the Big Bang and exactly how it works, you know exactly what number it's going to come up with because you know what that static is going to be at that exact point.
Yeah.
Okay, I heard this fact, and my mind does this. It like logs things as either credible source or uncredible source. So I'm not actually sure.
I love that.
And what's getting bad though is like credible source is starting to be like the front desk guy at the Blink Fitness. So like anyway, this might not be the best source ever, but I heard this thing once that if you look at like it's like there's a procedural noise pattern in the universe. So it's like the rough size distance of empty space between like stars and galaxies is approximately the same distance, same ratio as between atoms and neurons, like that. It's procedural.
So we're living on an atom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Horton Hears a Who, right?
Engine 5, yes. Using a very good noise pattern.
Right.
Very, very good. Well, we have a little thing we like to do here called Mograph Recommends, where we ask you some of your favorite things. And it kind of gives us a good idea of, a better idea of who you are. We get to know you a little bit.
We know how to judge you.
Yeah.
IRL. Yeah.
Judging you based on your choices in Netflix TV shows,
Yeah.
So we're going to start this out, though, by asking you your favorite movie. And I'll say this can be all-time for any of these. This could be all-time favorites or recent favorites.
Okay. I feel like this is the kind of thing I just have to answer with what first came to mind, as opposed to, trying to make sure I pick something that you won't judge me too harshly for.
Mm-hmm.
So, Probably the movie that I watched the most, man, this really ties, but we're really seeing where this came from. Like as a kid was The Matrix, because that came out when I was like at the perfect age to think that it was the coolest thing ever. So,
Yep.
I honestly
don't know if you needed to be at any age to think it was the coolest thing ever.
True.
Yeah.
Does it age well? Have you guys gone back? Does it hold up still?
I don't know.
I watched it pretty recently, I think. I mean, it's all right. The graphics are a little,
Yeah.
I might just leave that one as perfect in my memory. I might not go back to that.
I was thinking about it the other day. I actually think about where he says they base the Matrix based on like the late 90s or the early 90s or whatever, because that's when, right before technology. And one thing that gives me like inspiration that we may not be in the Matrix is that we are actually moving forward and we're not just stuck in like the 90s with nothing else happening and blah blah blah,
True.
We are making technological advances.
Or they're just figuring out how to simulate better as we go. Oh, I ruined it for you.
How crazy would it be if the simulation of life updated one day and we just wake up and all the graphics are better?
Right?
They roll out.
I don't need glasses anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They're like,
new colors.
Right?
Yeah, there's 7 new colors, guys. Yeah.
The colors, children.
Oh man,
Blurple.
honestly,
Blurple.
Oh, you know how popular Blurple would be? Like all the that would be the trend in graphics packages.
Oh,
Blurple.
yeah.
Oh man.
People would not get enough of it. Oh man.
To have some new color palettes to work with, man.
That honestly is the graphic designer's dream. Yeah. Oh, can we get 7 new colors?
And you can smell them.
Smell-o-vision.
What smells like blue?
Oh man, that's funny.
So The Matrix, yeah.
The Matrix. That's a good
Yeah.
choice.
Good,
Yep.
good. Okay, now TV show.
So I'm not a huge person.
Uh-oh, we're losing you. We're losing you, Captain. You got glitchy.
The Matrix found out that we figured it out.
Yeah,
And they're like,
they're onto us.
we're gonna end this now.
Somebody's on Dropbox.
Right.
Right. I'm damn it. It's caught.
Somebody's on Dropbox in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
Oh man. So I guess the last TV show that I binged out, I actually I had an overnight project. Like I had to work pulling all nighter due to scheduling mistakes on my part.
Like you do.
So yeah, and I watched Chernobyl, just the whole series.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I saw a couple
good,
episodes.
man.
It was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. I don't know how accurate it was to the actual thing. I mean, I'm assuming it's pretty accurate, but I did hear there were a couple things that were not, that were a little.
Like they probably
What?
spoke Russian.
Right.
Well, that's
Instead of-
probably the first thing. Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, that was really good.
Actually-
Yeah, that was a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah. Where is Kevin with his? It's been a while.
Kevin hasn't been showing up lately. Too busy going and seeing Goldfinger and seeing, Tony Hawk sing with them.
Yeah, going to Bored Ape meetups.
Right. That's funny.
Let's see. Next on the list would be your favorite music.
Ooh. So I am a sucker for I like the EDM shows, which actually pretty cool graphic space. Those cats are doing
Very
some
cool
stuff on those LED boards. One artist in particular I love is called Seven Lions. I might love him because he has a really, really great suite of motion graphics. Go with his music. And I can expense all the concerts because it's research.
Absolutely.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done any EDM graphics work?
Just a little bit. It's only when it overlaps with a live broadcast and, where they have like a halftime show or something to that effect.
Right.
Really enjoyed it. And actually that's something, with the start in the LED space, I love that. I love environmental, like where the screen's actually casting light and stuff.
I do too.
Yeah.
And it's like you get to work in all these as as hard as it is, you get to work in these really weird dimensions, which I think is cool,
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you know what's so popular right now is the forced perspective stuff.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was all the stuff that we did on the Cube,
Yeah.
The Cube was like,
Yeah, and we've done some forced perspective stuff too for like corporate clients and stuff too. They've been fun,
Yeah.
And one we almost did for Saturday Night Live that got canceled the day before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Did we ever talk about that?
I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay,
my current there's this Mograph podcast. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's quite good.
It's called the School of Motion podcast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have heard of it.
With EJ, yeah.
The latest podcast I've been listening to is the Duolingo Spanish podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's pretty well produced. They found a nice formula where an English speaker gives you the context of what the native Spanish speaker is about to talk about, so you have enough context clues that you can kind of work through it, and they keep the Spanish at a level that hopefully you can understand it. And I think it's pretty well. I think they did homework on how to educate people.
I wish I knew Spanish. I'm an idiot for trying to learn French in high school. Come on, Milstead.
You thought you were going to be going to France, huh?
Yeah, right? There are two things that I will make sure that my kids do whenever they're in school. One, learn to play the drums, in like band and stuff. That's why I got my drum set here. I told them, I said, if they have you play like trumpet or something, you say no. You say, I got a drum set at home. I'm going to play drums, right? And two, I'm not going to let them take anything but Spanish.
You have no choice. I've actually, I don't have kids, but I've had that thought. I'd be like, man, if I had kids, I'd like force them to go learn to skateboard just so they're cool.
Yeah, right.
My daughter took Spanish, immersive Spanish, for like 6 years. Still can barely speak Spanish. Thanks, American education system.
Time well spent.
Yeah, all her education, even math, was done in Spanish, but still she can't speak Spanish.
Really?
I mean, she knows some, but it's still like, can you talk to this person? No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what was the point? All right.
That's actually another thing AI promises to fix, right? When's the Babel just gonna? When can I just talk and we just translate?
Actually, somebody I went to high school with owns a company that's doing that.
Cool.
Randomly. So, yeah.
Need that universal translator. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And then with AR, they take exactly what you're saying and like change your
mouth.
Face, to where it's actually. Dude.
Yeah. The only problem with that is it can't be 100% real time because words are in different orders in different languages. There's still going to be a little delay.
Be some kind of yeah.
Besides render engines, which are you're mostly a Redshift person, right?
Mostly Redshift. Yeah.
What plugin is your favorite?
Ooh, plugin is my favorite. This again, the knee jerk is. I actually feel guilty about even thinking this. My knee jerk is Particular, but I'm sorry, Trapcode. I think Particular's days are done. The reason being, we want higher level simulations out of our part. The demand Particular doesn't look good enough anymore. It doesn't have enough physics in it. But that was. I mean, I got a lot of use out of Particular for a long time. Sorry, Particular.
Well, what about X Particles then?
Yeah.
Oh no, X Particles I can get down with in Houdini. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what you can do with them is really cool.
Do you do a lot of Houdini too?
Me personally, no. On our team, every now and then. Really, we want to expand in that space. I mean, that's definitely something we're looking to grow in. Because, like I said, I think that's going to continue to stay. I think we got a couple more years of simulations and sports packages before that gets.
Are you so the Houdini if you got someone doing Houdini, are you bringing that into Unreal, or are you only just rendering that? You know, because I'm really curious about the pipeline from Houdini to Unreal. I was talking to Houdini Mark on Friday while we were up at Already Been Chewed, and it's like he has been pretty heavily in Unreal doing blueprints and stuff like that. And it's like, I want to know that pipeline, you know, whether it will actually translate well or not.
You know, we haven't had the opportunity to do a Houdini to Unreal pipeline, just mainly because you kind of went up against the logistics of it again. It's like, okay, we got to like translate this to Unreal and integrate it, and then if we want to do that with Houdini, the budget quadruples, you know?
Right, so for sure. Yeah.
And what's the first thing we can cut from the budget? Do we really need those snow particles?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and the price tag's so high, so I think the barrier to entry's got to come down a little on that before we. Yeah.
What about? Yeah. What about what was the next one? App muscle memory. Pick up your phone. What are you in?
Reddit probably.
Ha. Okay.
Probably
Nice.
Reddit.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite subreddits?
Ooh.
Yeah.
What
I
are
sometimes forget that subreddits exist, you know, and like I find like I'll search for a subreddit and then I'll enjoy it, and then Reddit will start advertising me that subreddit, and they'll be like, all right, I'll join that, you know. I'll add we modded, you know, modded we subreddit to my list of stuff, or my CRT subreddit, you know.
You know what? Recently, really just was a hero for me is Buy It for Life, I think is what it's called.
I do like Buy It for Life. There's too many people who don't show the longevity of it, but they just show it right when they buy it, and they're like, "This thing's lasted me 6 months." Derp.
And you're like,
"Yeah,
of course it did. Yeah, it's made of metal."
Yeah.
I recently had, and this really spoke to me. There was this incredibly detailed conversation about white waffle knit shirts, which is one of my favorite. And it was just, you know.
Yeah, I think that was like just the other day, right? It was some German company that creates those shirts. Dude, I'm telling you, advertisers getting on there, and they're like, because I wanted to buy that shirt. I wanted to buy that shirt. I was like, I would look good in that shirt.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Someone, So that's definitely. Oh, and you know, honestly, the Midjourney AI, the subreddit's pretty good.
I can't. Yeah, no, I can't do that. Can't do that.
No.
I need my Reddit for entertainment, not for worrying about my job. You know?
Let's see. Video games.
The video game that I have poured more hours than I would like to talk about into is The Binding of Isaac, which is a procedurally generated video game. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a roguelike. Yeah. It's got a terrible, terrible in a graphic style where it's like really inappropriate.
Oh, but, gotcha. Okay. Top-down side scroller or whatever. Yeah.
It's based off like Zelda 1. But it is procedurally generated, and their noise pattern is fantastic.
Wow, neat.
So
what do you do going through each one? Is it very similar to Zelda?
Yeah. Yes, it's a dungeon crawl, but the items you pick up are very impactful on the way the game plays, and since it's procedurally generated, each dungeon is a very unique experience with a very different gameplay, so it has a lot of staying power.
So you could play it multiple times, and like it's a different game every time.
It kind of made me realize that once the noise pattern, because this game isn't quite there, but once the noise pattern of video games get good enough that I could be entertained by a single game with an appropriately good noise pattern for my entire life.
Interesting.
You know,
that's a really good idea.
Right? Yeah.
All right, here's the tough one. Favorite life hack.
Favorite life hack.
Mitch Myers turns the toaster on its side for some bomb-ass grilled cheese. He's been posting a lot on TikTok, by the way. Go follow him.
Yeah.
Man, that is a really tough one. You know what? I don't know if this is so much a life hack as it is just me being lazy. But I think the enjoyment of it is worth it. Is send your laundry out because it comes back professionally folded. Guys.
What do you use? Do you use Hamper?
No, I just did the local laundromat.
I use
Really?
a hamper.
Yeah.
There's a
Mhm.
subscription service called Hamper, and like you basically pay for each bag that you fill up. They give you the bags, and you shove as much on there.
And just
But
go.
then some random person comes and picks up your laundry, does it at their house, folds it, and then brings it back to you.
I don't
That
know
So it's
sounds
like
a
about
little
the
that.
Uber.
suspect.
It's like an Uber
Oh,
of
interesting.
laundry, but
I don't know how
you
I
got
feel about this.
random strangers
Don't send your favorite
sniffing your
outfit.
underpants.
Oh,
Well, the thing is, I know I lose some clothes doing this, not
Mhm.
because I've noticed that mine go missing, but because other people's clothes show up in mine. I'll get it, I'll get a T-shirt
Yeah.
and I'll be like,
That's
this
funny.
is, yeah.
So how much
Yeah.
does that cost?
Well, okay, here's the math I tell myself. This is me lying to myself. It's really just because I just enjoy it so much. But I'm like, okay, if I spend 2 hours of doing laundry and my day
Sure.
rate is X,
Sure.
right.
really, I could spend, the actual math is, though, it's probably like $20 to do my laundry, which is like
Right.
way
That's
more
okay.
than the cleans in the building. Yeah.
$20 per week?
Yeah, I would say about, yeah. The
That's
stupid
okay.
gym clothes just can't keep up with that laundry.
Right.
Okay,
$20 per week, but it's just for you yourself, right?
and it's $20 for happiness. Like, can you really put a
Right.
price on it? So.
I mean, yeah.
and
a good
it's
hat.
$20. Yeah.
$20 is $20, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Are you going to any events this year? Are you going to NAB or?
Definitely. I absolutely love the conferences. One, because, I get to see all my friends again in person. And honestly, I feel like I actually learn a lot. And really, going back to the predictions of doing, of like guessing trends, that's where I kind of, you see that stuff. That's where people talk about what's coming. Everyone's showing off what's new
Yeah.
and where they're headed. And I just feel like to stay well educated about the industry, I have to. So I'm going to go to as many as I can, particularly Camp Mograph. I've heard good. Have you guys heard of this?
Mhm. I have
have.
heard
Good.
of it. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah. You may
I'll
want to
check it
sign
out.
up for that newsletter
I am
because you
gonna
may
see-
hear some.
I'm
There's
gonna press
a
refresh
chance that you
so
may hear
fast.
something this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, we're gonna be doing NAB. We're gonna be kicking off a tour with Max on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna be traveling around a bit.
Yep.
And,
Very cool.
For my
Is
European
there any
friends, we may
destinations?
see some of y'all.
That's
It'll be
right.
fun.
Yeah.
Are there
So-
any locations you can talk about that you're particularly excited for?
Nope.
Not yet.
Aw.
Yeah.
Nothing we
They're
can
actually
talk about.
they're actually
LA.
not solidified.
That's the one I'm most excited about.
We can say
I mean,
Dallas and LA.
that's got to be an obvious, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. We can see our friends. Hopefully, stay away from the row, but
Yeah, I know.
it's gonna be tough.
That's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have to like, someone's gonna get corona, and then the other person's gonna have to switch, and back and
Oh,
forth. That's
jeez,
not gonna
let's
be
hope
fun.
not. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, thanks so much for joining us today and
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
talking
Yeah,
about
this
the
is
meaning of
awesome.
life. Hopefully we can do more of that on the road. Get a
Mhm.
get a drink or something and really go off on simulations.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can analyze the tile pattern of the bar floor. It'll be
Right.
Yeah. It'd be about 4 drinks in. Listen to me. Listen to me. You
You
know,
ever looked at the tile pattern on the floor?
yeah.
You ever looked at the tile pattern on the
Those
floor?
tiles are repeating,
Are
man.
we? Yeah. Oh
That's
man. Oh, thanks, guys. So,
Appreciate you guys. Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
a ton.
if somebody wants to find you online or look you up or send you a message and ask you about how they can get into sports graphics, where can they go?
No, absolutely. GameDayCreative.tv. That's the company site. They got email things on there. They got work on there. Hit us up, even if it's just to talk shop. If you want to talk more about noise patterns, I'm thrilled to do
Cool.
it. Absolutely. That's where we're hanging out.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, we're going to get out of here. You can rate us on iTunes, leave a review, also subscribe on your podcatcher of choice. And you can say you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt with the Mograph logo tee, the Paul Babb, Feel the Babb 2020 shirt. Classic. It's still out there. Classic. All the profits from that go to Doctors Without Borders. Super retro. You render things, t-shirt, hoodie, and long sleeve tee, the Mograph blandishment shirt, and the That Render is Fire shirt, which you're only allowed to wear ironically. Unless you're shams. Yes. Yeah. And you can check us out online, youtube.com/Mograph, Mograph.com, Mograph.com/live. You can check out the lineup, the schedule, and all the things. Who's next week, Matt? Is it Patrick 4D next week? Patrick 4D, I believe.
Might be. I don't know.
I believe that's the case. You can check out, maybe I should go to Mograph.com/live and find out,
That's what I'm going to do right now.
So Matt's going to find that out, and I'll say in the meantime, you have to go to Mograph.com/TV. Because that's where you're going to find 24/7 animation network. Did you find it, Matt? Is it Patrick 4D?
Is it Patrick Foley? Is that his actual name?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not 4D. His last name is not 4D.
I knew that, but I didn't know that his name was Patrick Foley.
Apparently so, according to his information.
Yeah. Patrick 4D, he's been doing some really fun stuff in like ZBrush and, very, very fun stuff. Food.
Yeah, cool. Well, Eric, stay on the line with us for a second, and we'll wrap up after the show.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get out of here, though. Until next time, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Eric.
Have a good one.
Later, yo.
Ha ha ha!